and welcome to Geeky Bit. Today in tech history, we're going to be talking about shareware. The concept of shareware was originated around 1982 in practice, but its name wouldn't come till later. The first person to use the shareware concept was Andrew Fogelman, but he didn't call it shareware, he called it freeware. Unfortunately, he trademarked the term freeware, so nobody was able to use it. But later on, a PC journalist named Nelson Ford had a contest for renaming it, as at the time they were using user-supported software, and that was way too long to say. In the end, shareware was chosen, and thus the name shareware was born. Originally in the mid-80s to early 90s, there were only 3 ways you could get shareware. The first and most common, of course, was from a shop, typically a computer-related one. Then, of course, there was mail order. Can you believe that? Sending off a letter to a company asking for a copy of the software and then them later sending you one back. Oh, it took so long for that to happen. And then lastly, there is BBSs. And now BBSs were what was called a bulletin board system. They are kind of like smaller local internets of that time period. By the mid-90s, you could actually get many shareware programs online. This also led to splitting up and subnaming shareware to the likes of adware, crippleware, trialware, nagware, and many more, but those were some of the biggest subcategories of shareware. So you might mistakenly think shareware is a thing of the past and is no longer used. Unfortunately, that is very far from the truth. Heck, programs like Fortnite and Warzone and WinRAR and other applications like that, including Chrome, are more or less shareware. Chrome, unfortunately, doesn't monetize in the same way many shareware packages monetize, as it monetizes based off of collecting data as you use the internet. But the overall idea of shareware is still incorporated in a lot of modern applications people get today. Now you might go, well, that's not really shareware because you aren't sharing it amongst people, but you are, as distributors and makers are actually sharing it with you directly instead of you sharing it with your friends. With all of that out of the way, here is my story with shareware. Shortly after my family had gotten our very first computer, I found a small local computer shop that was within biking distance for me. That shop sold software, games in particular, for just a few dollars per disc. This was around 1992 or 93. When I first started going to the shop, I remember getting my allowance every Friday and going down there. Sometimes with some friends, sometimes with my older brother. We would go through the shareware racks and look at all of the discs in small manila envelopes, typically with fine printed labels. I remember the middle-aged man behind the counter would always tell us he's watching us, and with the most concerned look on his face. I remember buying games like Dune, and things like a digital painting program, RPG games, even a 3D rendering program, which was really terrible nowadays, but for the time it was so cool. It was amazing, the software was cheap, and it was a fun way to find exciting new software. Then this all changed around the late to mid-90s. I think it was about 95 or early 96, we got the internet, and I was able to get all my shareware off of that. So I didn't need to go to a local computer shop for shareware anymore. And if I still wanted to share that with friends, I could always call AOL's 800 number and ask for a free AOL disk, and then erase AOL and put the shareware on that and give it to a friend. However, later on, AOL moved to CDs, and you weren't able to do that really anymore. So here are my thoughts on shareware. It helped a lot of people learn about software they wouldn't otherwise have learned about in those days. This helped the developers and publishers get money for their software as well. It gave me a wonderful feeling to buy software and games that I couldn't otherwise afford to buy the full version of. And today's incarnation of shareware, or more like a la carte serviceware, is pretty much what is still around today and people enjoy as the times have changed. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, and if so, feel free to click that like button, and if you aren't subscribed so already, feel free to do so, and if you'd like to get notifications of my future videos, click that bell button.